why do all these people just want to focus on the dirt? Oh Lord, I will just never understand. I just see this my whole life, and I just will never understand it. It's the same thing with this Alister Beg controversy. All these podcasts and people, and they're just making a big deal out of it right away. They're all saying the same thing. There's all these podcasts come out, just it all pops out like out of the woodwork, and it's just like, why do all these people focus on the dirt? When something bad happens, just stay out of it. The gospel is the pure truth. Just anything that's not that, just stay away from it. Just like, you don't even need to go to church. Just read the scriptures and it'll blow your mind, and you'll be on fire for God. Plain and simple. You don't need to go to church, but it's good to go to church. It is good. But when church is full of politics or just like social drama, just like stay away from it. And it's not just about church. It goes back to the days when like everybody's talking, like people are always hung up on these mass murderer guys, and they're just the sensationalism. I never understood what attracts people. Why are you dwelling on this? Aren't you interested in inspiring things, like exciting things? Like, goodness me, there's so much interesting, cool stuff, but no, people are just fixating on this. And now, that's what it is. It's the exact same thing in a different garment. It is the people. I just never understand why they all want to focus on the dirt. So Mike Bickle, I don't know anything about him. All I know is that when I returned to the Lord, when I rededicated my faith, when I rediscovered, or when I matured in the Lord, you could say, but when I rediscovered the Lord, and when I read the scriptures as a young man, and I was just filled with the Spirit of the Lord so powerfully at that time, and it's never changed since practically, and I was just on fire and zeal for the Lord. And there was a few things that now and then I'd read a couple books, but basically I just read the scriptures, and I was just on fire for God. And then I read a couple books. I read about Keith Green. I read some random people that I never heard of, and those books were so good. They were just like down to earth books written by somebody that I didn't really even know. I don't think they were very famous, but they really moved me. Then I got a tape of Michael Jackson. Remember tapes? There's 60, 90, and there was even 30-minute tapes. 30 tapes, it's 30, 60, 90. And this was like one side Mike Bickle sermon on one side, and on the other side another Mike Bickle sermon. So of course, those were long before podcast days. I plugged it into my Walkman, listened to it at work. Man, it helped me through, and it just inspired me. And I was like, who is this guy? And it just lasted with me for so long in those days, because I never heard of him, never knew anyone that knew him, other than my friend that gave me the tape, and he didn't really even know it. I think he just listened to it once, but I think he actually kind of knew him, but I don't know if he really did. And it was like he didn't know him as much as I did, because I listened to it and I was blown away, way more than him. He just passed it on to me. I think maybe he listened to it, but he was listening to a lot of stuff, so I think it didn't really stand out to him. And I was really sensitive too, so certain things always stood out to me, and this just stood out to me. I was like, man, he's just talking about something. And it was I must have got the best 2 sermons he ever did, I'm sure. How it is so that I just always seem to encounter the most pure, powerful stuff out there. I always seem to zero in on it. I don't know what it is, why God brings the best of the best to me, but it always seems that way. And now I just look at it and how is it that Well, it makes sense that I ended up with it because it was good and they were probably a couple of the best ones going. But I think they were probably the best because the one, like, man, it just had such a good doctrine about the gospel, man. And so I never forgot that name. But then years later in the internet age, I think I kind of surfed him because his name always stuck with me. So I kind of surfed him a couple times and I found out about him. So, because in the internet I was doing this and I've been doing this ever since. You find these guys, it's like you don't hear of for 20, 30 years, and then you find on the internet just tons of stuff, right? Except sometimes you find things that, like, are kind of weird because you find they're really famous and well known. Lo and behold, so is this guy, right? Like Bickle. And I kind of put it together because I was always hearing about this church. I was like, what the heck is this pancake sounding church? I don't get it. Like, I'm always clueless about everything. I'm like, I don't get what's this acronym? Like, I don't know what this crap is. Like, I just don't care about anything, like, especially like churches. Like, I don't care, denominations, churches. Like, I don't care about that. I just like care about the pure fire and dope and the zeal of God, and that's it. Like, I never get mixed up in denominations, and certainly not scandals. I don't even listen to, like, the church stuff going on. I don't care about, because I know right away I'm just interested in the real powerful stuff, and that's it. And that's exactly what that was. So I remembered him well, but then I was like, oh, okay, so he's in charge of this church, and then this church is kind of like, I remember, for whatever reason, whether it was part of the community I was in a little bit, the name popped up, but like it kind of just like, okay, this is some big church and this church is like expanded or whatever, and he's affiliated with that, okay, whatever, that's nice. And then lo and behold, I kind of get used to him, like this image of him. It was like, well, he was like a nobody to me that put out these just bomb tapes, right? Bomb sermons on some dinky little tape, right? That's all I knew. You can't beat that, man. That's all. Like, no one can deny that, man. Anyone could dig out those tapes, I'm sure. And just, it's like, man, that is like, I guarantee you want to fault him, you want to condemn him, bring out those tapes, man. And I'll tell you, that's some good preaching right there. Like, just, his whole attitude, like, I mean, I'll tell you what it was. It was like, he was just saying you gotta run for the Lord and you gotta resist the devil. Just those two things in simultaneity. And that was the whole gist of it. Just running for the Lord and resisting the devil. But there was a little bit of a philosophical attitude there where see, now I'm starting to remember. It was like, he was like, you can't, that's what it was. The message was, you can't fight the devil. And ironically, that's exactly what all these people are doing. They're dealing with the dirt. They're dealing with the filth, man. It's like he was saying, you can't fight the devil. Like, you don't get wrapped up in the devil business. Like, you don't get all involved in what the devil's doing. You need to simultaneously resist the devil, but you need to run for the Lord. That's what you need to be doing. You need to be running for the Lord with zeal. That's what you need to be doing. And then you are actively resisting Satan. Okay? So you don't turn around, you don't stop, you don't turn from the Lord, and you don't think you're fighting Satan or something, or you're like, you're going toe to toe with Satan, or you're like, you're not like some hero that's trying to fight Satan, or you're not trying to expose some kind of like, evil works or something. It's like that. Don't get involved in that. You need to be running for the Lord. You need to be running with the Lord. And that's what it's all about. And it's all about zeal for the Lord. And then you need to actively be resisting the enemy and Satan. And it's just such a good, simple message. And there was like those couple sermons seem to be on that topic, right? So now all of a sudden I hear that he is part of some scandal, and it's like when all these people like just bind together to like, it's the same thing that the world is doing with all this Me Too generation or whatever. And it's like, I don't understand it at all. Like the lady says here, it's like she says she spoke up because she heard the other lady speak up, and then she re-evaluated her relationship and put it in a different light. So this lady's story makes her lady, don't you have your own view of this guy? Are you like so storm-tossed or windblown that you need somebody 30 years later to tell their story and then it colors your view? Like, don't people have kind of like their own thoughts? Like, and then like what you don't know if you had a positive or negative relationship with this guy until 30 years later someone talks about it, and then you're like, when I looked over my relationship, then I considered that everything too, that I've been used and abused and everything was bad, and then she decides to speak out too, and like everyone approves, like this is a good thing. It's like, I don't understand it. I question the first person standing up, because it's like I say, when I hear somebody speak the word of God like that, then I know that always stands. It's not necessarily, doesn't mean they're going to be perfect, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be faultless or sinless, but you want to come and you just start speaking bad news about some guy that I only know something good about, well, I'm going to like take it with a grain of salt. And then you got someone else coming out and they're saying that the first person, they're openly just saying, they're not, like what would I expect they would say? They'd be saying, man, I've been trying to get somebody to listen to me all these years, but not one person would listen to me, and finally this lady comes out and she says something, and then people start to take it seriously, and now they're actually starting to listen to what I've been trying to say, but I was too repressed, or I couldn't explain it, or had no one to support me or believe me or help me. That's what I think she's gonna say. No, she just openly says, well, when she said that, then it made me think that my story was like that. It's like, what? Like, it's like it's no big deal for you to just like put your story in a whole new negative light now. Like, it doesn't really matter, and now you're just gonna like rally up a bunch of women to like trash this guy's reputation, and then everybody's like saying the same token lines on their podcast. It's like the Mike Bickle allegations, like they're all. And it's like, how many you see on YouTube, because my feed, like I can search this stuff so fast, and it's just like I just can find like so many. It's like every Tom, Dick, and Harry who has a podcast has this within the last week has put this on, and they're like just like, going back to, like I said, those birds that all fly in unison, or like they're just sort of like that, whatever, like sheep, right? Like, or some social organism that just like, what do you like, you all just say the same thing at the same time. I don't get how you operate, and it's the same in the church, or in the same on the internet these days when stuff goes viral and people like just act like it's so normal and so great. And like I said, I almost admire you, because I don't understand how you're in such cahoots. I almost admire your social affinity and affection with one another, that you're so on board with one another. Like, my mind is boggled that you're like all coming out with this within the same week, and you're just like all totally like gung-ho, or like you're all on board with condemning this guy within 1 week. Like, I just do not understand it. Like, I question it. When I see that, I'm like, no way. I question the whole lot. You watch. My word will stand against this whole bunch of ya. Every single one of you that puts out the exact same video with your two words. I'm just wondering, are you guys like, am I so stupid that you guys are all doing it for the views? Like, you guys are just so good at working. Dang, you're good, because you need your views that week. And so you all are actually, you're all a bunch of like tradespeople. And you're all like, that week you need to keep your podcast views. You don't, like, you guys don't, like, see, I'm the total opposite. I go from inspiration. And I don't post. I have no need to post unless something speaks to my heart. But no, you guys know how to do business. You know how you got to make your views count. Like, man, I just will never understand this world, because you guys are so smart and such good workers. That's why. Then I go off the deep end thinking you're all denouncing Mike Bickle for like something that you just want to focus on negative things just because you're so depraved. No. You're all about business, right? You're all about getting views, and this gives you a story. You don't really care or even really know Mike Bickle that much. You just need your story of the week, because you need to keep content, right, for your feed and for your media viewership, right, or whatever. Maybe that's it, so I just scratch my head and I just don't know. But I'm like, seriously, like, I just will take any one of you on. You know what? All you guys put out a podcast, and basically you all say the same headline in your own words. Like, literally word for word, just changed one word here or that word's changed the order. And you got like, how many? I'm just surfing right now because I save it, right? I save them all. I don't watch them, but as I scan, I save each and every one of them, and then I'm kind of like searching for the certain one that I'm gonna watch, because there's certain things I'm looking for. I can't waste my time, so I'm screening it, and yet I'm saving every one of them. It's just like I just can't wait to be done. But no, I'm saving how many that from the period of 2 weeks to 1 month. I just saved like 24 podcasts that all have the exact same headline, and I'm sure I'm only half done. I bet you there is at least 48, which is basically there's at least 50. Like, that's without even barely surfing. Like, I just was on the one that I kind of wanted to, like, okay, I'm hearing this. I heard it once like a week or two ago about like someone, and like I'm always a latecomer, so I'm out now. So now I'm like, I don't have time to watch it. So now I just sit down and try to watch someone that's just to get a little bit of the story. It's like I don't really want to know, but I kind of want to know just the basic details of the story somehow. So I watch one, and it also came up randomly. It was more like I was watching something, but then that person also had a video about this. So then because this person or whatever it was about the moment, like usually I find my own content, and it's like I wouldn't just necessarily follow one, but I always kind of am like researching that person too. Like, I don't even know who that person is, but then I'm like, okay, this person, yeah, who are they? They're interesting, or, they're a singer or whatever, or talker, speaker, whatever. And then all of a sudden, then I hear about that Mike Bickle thing. So I'm like, okay, I'll check that video. I'll put two and two together. I'll see what's going on there and learn a bit more about this person too at the same time. So I go to that one, and then boom, with that. Well, once I'm onto that, then my feed now has like boom, just a whole schwack of Mike Bickle ones. So now I go to save those. I get right away I go down the line as far as I can until I'm just going bored, because it's like I don't want to save anymore. So I save already like 20 or 30. Then I pick about 5 of those that I kind of think stand out that I want to watch. So I go down to one of those. And then I watch that one. So as soon as I watch that one, then there's a whole refreshed feed, and then I see like right away 20, 30 more. So I basically save all those, and out of those there's another 4 or 5 that I kind of want to watch, right? So I've only had time to see like 2 or 3, but basically without even trying, I got like 50 that have all been put out in a month. Like, how many do we need? You know, where is the 50 that say 25 years ago, man, Mike put out this kick-ass tape on the Lord, nothing else? Like, I don't know if he was like touching girls' breasts back then when he was a young preacher or not. And like, that's the other thing, I don't understand. I've never understood really what sexual abuse is. You know, like, and molestation, like, that's the other thing. Like, for my whole life I've been just questioning, like, why is it so prevalent? Like, what does it look like? How do people, and why do they do it? Like, I don't understand. Like, why do people compromise? Like, what? Like, I don't understand, you know, like, I don't understand people's sexual urges, I guess. Again, it's like, I hate it, and I'm almost amazed and inspired. It's like, wow, you're such a sexual beast. Like, you just can't control yourself, so you're just like monsters. Like, you're just touching them. It's disgusting. Like, you totally can't control yourself. And then they, like, I always think about the victims. Can't they back out of the situation? Like, why are they always so weak? And, you know, like, I feel that, like, sexual abuse, it always seems to take 2 people. And I'm like, why do you let yourself be abused? Like, okay, so it's not rape, you know, or it's not like, what does it look like? I don't understand. Is it like, are they physically holding you down? Like, I just don't get it. Like, or it's emotional, and then so it's like, then, like, aren't the victims kind of to blame in that then? Like, sorry, I just kind of naive. Like, I'm telling you my honest feelings. It's like, they're not, but it's like, if you're letting your, like, what exactly are they doing? Like, are you, like, it, I'm sorry to say, but it kind of sounds almost like the victim in molestation or sexual abuse actually kind of enjoys it, right? Am I right? I don't get that, really. Like, I don't, like, or like, they allow them. Like, don't they have to allow them? I don't, that's the thing that I never really got, man. I'm being really candid here right now. I didn't expect to do this or say this, but I never understood it. Like, or I guess I don't understand the psychological powers that are interplaying. That there is complex. But then, you know what, I look at it and I'm just like, I don't know, man, because I have always had a kind of a weird, stubborn refusal, or like, I just have always stayed away from society in a way, and social structures, and I just kind of question everything. I'm like, I just don't really get it. Like, it just seems like people are all too ready to talk about sexual abuse, molesting, and it just, I don't know, it just, something does not seem right. It's just like people are too, on one hand, they're too caught up in social constructs, and then they're very impressionable and they're victimized. Well, like, I don't understand what it looks like. Like rape is one thing, you know, like, to me that is a violent crime. But then sexual abuse seems to me to reference something that's more like a different kind of thing going on sort of like beneath the scenes, or I swear it just seems to me like it has as much or more to do with people talking about the people that want to talk about it than it does the acts themselves. I just don't get it. Like, I'm sorry to say, and like, I just, for years, I've tried to get myself to be sensitive to it, just go, man, you just don't understand how prevalent it is and what a tragedy it is. But you know, like, I'm just kind of naive, and I just sort of, and I'm stubborn in my views, and I just don't, like, it seems to me like it doesn't stand to reason what happens. Like, I don't really get it. But that is one thing that is like difficult for me, because like I just I just thank God that it seems like I didn't really experience that myself, and so I don't like to talk about it. Like I guess this is like my candid thoughts where I'm like, I kind of don't get it. Like, I don't want to admit, I don't want to even vocalize the fact that I kind of get this feeling that it's like a little bit more to do with sensationalism and people getting attention by talking about it than it actually happened. For years, I never really believed that it happened. I always believed people were just kind of making it up. And to this day, I just don't really know, and I don't really want to say that because it sounds then like what, you don't believe people. And so I'm like, okay, you know what? All I can say is that for years I just tried to understand and believe it and stuff, but kind of with great trepidation, because it's like, it makes me feel uncomfortable, because I sort of feel like I was like, so lucky to have like a good family, or like a good upbringing where that wasn't like something that I ever experienced. And so I kind of feel like it's a combination of feeling really naive or innocent or almost like privileged in a way, and it kind of makes me feel uncomfortable. And then it makes me feel even more uncomfortable to feel that other people are so well versed in discussing these things, and it's almost like the minute they hear that stuff, they're like, yeah, see, yeah, it's like they just agree, yep. And it's like, I don't know, it's like how people even have a healthy relationship with God when it seems like they're so focused on scandalous things. Like, it's like two different beings, like the guy that is on fire and zeal for God compared to the one that is like, seems to be just constantly immersed in scandalous information. Like, how do you actually get on fueled by the spiritual food? That's not spiritual food, that's like criminal activity almost. Like, I just don't get it. But it just really frustrates me. Like, either like that going on is one thing, okay? So that's just like saying, it's like, I don't really know. I just like, it's more, I just got to the point where I want to create like a sensitive spirit about it, so that I'm there to kind of like, all I'm there is to do is help if I ever, I'm needed, and just kind of like, just say, thank you, God, for the good that you've shown me in my life. And if I can be more sensitive and more understanding to the difficulties and the challenges that we have to face as individuals, as a community, as a church, as a society, whatever, like, I want to overlook, my own experience or thoughts or anything really, like, if they're in any way an obstacle. And I just kind of really want to try to understand as much as I possibly can, and just maybe be a positive force in the midst of that. And that's kind of it, that's the end of my story, right? But then I see, boom, like without even trying, just like I like to inform myself on the facts. Like when I hear things a little while, like within a week or two, then it's like I don't want to be like totally clueless, because I have a tendency to be clueless as it is. And I think it's not that does play a part in it, but at a certain point I'm like, I need to know the facts. When I hear things being talked about like more than once or twice already, then it's like right away I kind of, obviously want to know the facts. And especially, if there's like something like negative about someone that I think that has a good reputation, then I just want to get the basic facts. Well, I get more than I want, really. Or at the same time, I'll be honest again and candid again. It's like I'm trying to get the facts, and it's like I gotta watch 10 of these videos. Like the people are already so on board with knowing what they think they know that they're not even telling the story. Like, would one of you just tell me, like, what happened? What is it? And then like, what is sexual? Like, what? Just because they're a pastor, they can't have like a sex life? Or it's just like same with Ravi Zacharias. They're just all like going off on his sexual misconduct, but I'm like, man, I don't know, like Ravi Zacharias, same thing, like, man, this guy was a powerful speaker. When I start to watch Ravi Zacharias, I was like, at first, a lot of these guys, I start watching them, and then I'm like getting really, really into them, and then all of a sudden, at a certain point, then I'm like, something is kind of, like, sometimes it happens that where something's like kind of not, something comes up, and it's like all of a sudden it kind of minimizes my interest a little bit. And with Ravi Zacharias, it was like that. There's something, all of a sudden it's kind of like, I had an impression of him that was like kind of like really high, and then all of a sudden something that he said or something, then it kind of made me just drop him down like a few levels, and then I kind of like held him at arm's length, where I wasn't really watching much of his content, because it kind of seemed to me like I knew him, and I got a lot of the idea of what kind of a person he was, and it was almost like he had entered into my consciousness and he had made a really powerful mark, and that's kind of where he remained. But he kind of was demoted a little bit from this real constant. Like, it wasn't like it was like it terminated. It wasn't like growing more and more and constantly keeping abreast, but I was keeping abreast with a lot of his content that was coming from whatever sources, and I still, like, I put him at a pretty high premium, and I was just like, okay, he might have kind of momentarily been demoted, but it's like I have my way of like categorizing people. It's just like I am definitely keeping abreast with what he is on about, at any point, because I think that he has some, like, it didn't take me long to see that he had some real powerful things to share, so he kind of gained a real prominent place. And then people are talking about sexual misconduct, and it's like, you do realize this spiritual content is pretty powerful, right? But the thing was that some of these guys, it's like, I don't know what it is, something about their doctrine that maybe it reveals itself, and it's maybe that's kind of part and parcel of the contradiction in their lives, and it manifests, because why do some other people, I really keep pursuing them as people and their message really deeply, like almost obsessively, for a long time, whereas others, I kind of just put them on a shelf after a while, and I'm just like, it's like that with John Lennox. And then see, like, it's not a bad story really about those people, but like, it was like John Lennox, and then it's like, man, John Lennox was really like a major, like, I was like, man, John Lennox is like, seriously, he is number one right now in terms of like the sort of intellectual and philosophical concepts of the Bible and of God's truth. Like, man, I was just like, and then all of a sudden he said a few things, and then and then a very short time after that, I recalibrated almost everything he said, and I was like, whoa, 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 no, 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 no. And then for just like a few days or a couple weeks, it was like, no, no, no. And it was like, it was almost not even like with Rabbi, but Zacharias just kind of putting it in a different, demoted place temporarily. It was more like, I was just like, I suddenly saw him as kind of like a really fake person in a way, like something that he so was in tune with God, but something just was like all of a sudden it was like that he was doing that I didn't like it, almost to the point where I can't even find that content anymore, because then all of a sudden he kind of like he sort of disappeared from my view, and like it was like those few things he said that kind of offended me, and then I looked at him all of a sudden differently for a while, and every time I saw him I was like, I don't want to say it, but I almost really don't like him, but I'm definitely keeping him kind of like at an arm's length right now. Like he's kind of like, I see something like a contradiction in him, and that contradiction spoke so powerfully that I was like, almost like warning signs, where I was like, I don't know, it's like, there's either almost like a self-assuredness or almost like a smugness, or there's like it could have been that, it could have been something that he said where I was like, that's just, I was like, I think it was more like that. It was like something where it's too far. It's like you blew your cover. Like somehow it didn't, like it was just lip service all of a sudden. It was like lip speak at a certain point all of a sudden. It went from being like really profound to like all of a sudden a little bit fake-ish or something. And when I sensed that, then I was like, whoa, no, I was turned right off, because what happened was that when it got to that point, then it was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. If you're being fake with this kind of material, then that's a real danger sign. That's like, you can't do that. That's a definitely no-go, because you're dealing, on one hand, you're presenting a very sincere, sensitive, profoundly meaningful and deep dialogue or discourse, but then you handle that material like that, then that makes me really, like, you really suspect to me for a period of time, and like I'm kind of way more scrutinizing at that point, where it's like right now you almost, like when you do that, you almost just become the devil, because all of a sudden you were the good guy, and then you said a few things that were like pretty serious warning signs, then all of your content right away flips sides. I think maybe that's strangely how all these people feel about Mike Bickle or these preachers, right? Because then they kind of see them in a position of authority almost, or power or influence, or just almost even charisma, but then they are kind of dangerous, because they have within that domain, they could have a lot of power, or they do exercise a lot of power to influence or sway people and or manipulate, could possibly even abuse people or whatever. So it does, and like it's really kind of heart-wrenching to me, because it's like I really like intellectuals, and this guy's a really eloquent speaker, but then when I do that, it's like I don't write them off by any means. I just kind of like put them in a certain categorical position, you might say, for a time, and then I'm just like not really sure. It almost like it doesn't detract from what they said initially, just like with Mike Bickle. It's like nothing will change those tapes. That alone, like you're sort of easily one in my fame books. It's like you don't really get denounced once you once you enter the gate of notoriety in my consciousness of intellectual material or whatever, then it's like you're always there. You know, it's like your certificate will always hang in my office or in my pool room or whatever. That's kind of how it is for me. It seems like it's just like you're there's nothing ever gonna change that now once you do that. But with some people that happens, like, then I need to go through a period of rediscovering them, and sometimes I don't have to try that, because all of a sudden it's like, man, I really see John Lennox like something that, like, he kind of, it's almost like he stuck in there, you know, and proved himself to me. That's kind of how it feels like. But he didn't, but he kind of did. And like all of a sudden, I just like really, just in the last few days, I was like, man, this is like the C.S. Lewis over times. And I've heard that, and I was like, when I heard that like a while ago, because I was in that mood, I was like, get out of here. That just pisses me off, because I know what you're thinking. You're just all enamored with John Lennox right now, like I was when I, you know, a couple of years ago or a year ago when I first encountered him, and you're just saying that. And then all of a sudden, then I'm thinking it after I've gone through this, and I still think that person is off. I still think that they're just enamored and they're not really realizing. But I think I'm ahead of the game with them. Like, they're just seeing what I saw a while ago already. But then all of a sudden, it's just like he shone through, and all of a sudden it's like, this is like the C.S. Lewis our time. Because what was I saw, not that his content, his intellectual content, but his attitude, the way he holds himself, like the, you know, the way he's kind of like really relaxed and confident stuff, and I started like, that's quite unique. He's like very kind of like self-assured in a way and stuff like that. Like, I think that's kind of admirable, or it's definitely sort of notable, and yet I see it as still kind of a danger. But at the very same time, I'm looking at that again, I'm going, you know, he seems to be really, like, I enjoy the way that he seems to be very, like, even to the point where he's past deep thinking. Like, he's almost able to just be a normal person and very confident, even kind of funny or just natural. And yet he is very intelligent in a way, but he's so eloquent that he can actually present it in a very, very nonchalant, composed, and sophisticated manner. And I just really think that, you know, like, this is unique. He's got a combination of being all those things while at the same time being kind of like a very, you know, like, he's a very, like, his demeanor and stuff is very, very appealing. And that is rare. That is very rare. And so, you know, all of a sudden he's kind of behind the scenes, and then all of a sudden he comes back again. And this happens in my mind with, you know, literary figures, with people, whether it be in the media or in the intellectual sphere, or in the, you know, within the church community or whatever. Then so I take a look at these things. Like, I'm not really in charge. I just pay attention to the things that are happening, and like, I'm just kind of like, I don't really care if I make new friends or not, but actually I do, because I want to win more friends. But to me, I want to win mentors and stuff like that too, just as much, all the same. You know, kind of, you could call mentors, or you could call brothers and sisters in the Lord, or brothers and sisters in the world community, whatever. I'm just into all that, right? But anyway, so once again, my 2-minute attempt to just summarize it is close to an hour probably, or getting along. And I just want to say, you know what, I don't like it. I just don't see it and I don't get it. And I just did another video where I was like, all these people talking about the Nephilim all the time. It's the exact same thing. There's the Nephilim, and then the other day I looked up the way that Canaan was cursed by Noah, Ham's grandson, and people are all up like, why did he do that? And then I just put out a video, or like I discussed that with quite a bit of animosity in a way, because I'm like, why do you guys all gravitate towards this stuff? You really shouldn't be talking about this stuff. You should be talking about the gospel. What are you doing dragging up this garbage from the Old Testament? Like, yes, it's an interesting point, but like literally within a very short period of time, all these videos came out. It's like the same crowd that now I see it. They all needed to provide something for their social media feed that week. It's like literally I saved like 50. Like, come on, are you serious? Like, of all the things going on in the Bible, and you're all like, how many people are dwelling on that curse of Canaan story? So I just was like, and now here we go. Then last week it was the Alister Beg thing. Boom, another thing. I just like, the curse of Canaan thing. Boom, 50 videos I logged without really trying. Just more or less trying to save the ones I saw, that in case I had an opportunity to look at them, or to just kind of, in case that, like, not knowing how much of the story I want to investigate for my own understanding or whatever. And so boom, it's like I saved 50 on the curse of Canaan. Can you believe? In like this Old Testament thing, one line, one sentence. And then last week it was this Alister Beg thing. I'm like, man, all these Christians are just calling him out, They're calling him out, and it's like, well, you know what? You can look at it one way, but I see it another way. That I see how he handled it, and he might not have done what you agree, but I don't think he really did. Like, it's like he's not really a criminal. And it's like, if you took him out of the church, he just said what was on his mind. So, well, like, who are you to, like, speculate on him anyways? Like, I think that all those videos that I saw in Alister Beg, they are just not seeing the real side of it, of when you're in a social community. You gotta attend things. Like, when there's parties going on, you gotta attend it. It's like, you gotta be there. And in a way, it's a kind of selflessness that you get used to doing when you're part of, like, a community, a social community, or like a party scene. You kind of, and so, like, I feel like these people, they don't know that. They don't know what it's like to be immersed in a party scene. It's like, you go every day and party, or you just hang out, or it's like every day you show up, kind of. Like, and it's like, you're just chilling with the buddies, right? Like, so it's kind of like that in a way. Like, that's one way to look at it. So so when he advises that you just go to that party, kind of, but you, instead of being unsure, go and just really rock it, like with bringing a great gift. That was his suggestion to that. And no one but me seems to point out the down-to-earthness of his advice in a kind of like way where I think I could really sympathize. Like, I would just picture myself going to the party and just going, I'm not trying to be an emissary of light or Christianity here. Maybe an emissary of light, actually, but I'm not trying to really represent the church, or let's just put it that way, or even the gospel, or God specifically in this instant. I'm just kind of going because I want to be involved, or I just, like, I think it's good, you should want to be part of a community, you know. It's like, for me, it's like I don't really have any social life, so it's like, but I remember, it's just like, you don't miss a party, you know. It's like you have to be attending everything going, right? And then it's kind of fun too, because you are involved, and then you are privy to those things, and it's better when you're involved in it, not like in a solitary way, but in a way where there's a big community that's on that same page, or on board with similar ideas or interests or whatever. So that thought just disappeared from my mind suddenly, because I just had a brief little nap. Once again, I just drifted off suddenly, and I forgot what I'm talking about. So now it's like, takes a second for me to recalibrate what I'm saying. But I think with the conclusion, it's just like, oh yeah. So he advised, Alister Beg advised, to just bring a gift, and I was like, yes, that's exactly it, because the gift almost absolves him of guilt. But really, what it does to me, it's profoundly, you know, it's like, I just picture Jesus saying, good job, you figured out a way to avoid judging it at all. And yet, the conclusion is, did you let your heart lead you astray, or you just did what your heart knew you had to do, which is you had to be at the wedding to support the people and or support your niece. But by bringing the gift, you kind of absolve yourself in a way, because it's like, now you're going because you have to bring a gift for your niece. You're not going as, it's not a statement. You can't say that by default. No, that's where it's like, even without the gift, you'd be hard pressed to prove that. Because you could really say that you're just going as your presents for your niece or whatever. Like, you kind of have to play these mind games, because if you're not in the social structure as an unbeliever, and you're in there as a believer, but then you're still attending some of these social interactions on whatever level, then you kind of have to make those, I think, those sort of excuses to be present in a way. No pun intended. To be present with a present. And you do that, you make it present by bringing a present. As simple as that. You also turn it into excusing yourself to go, excusing yourself to not judge by excusing yourself with a present. So in a way, it was a stroke of genius, and I think that he was proud of it. And then he just got like, oh, you're listening to your heart and you're not listening to what God, and they're all into legalism. They're just all telling him to go to hell, you know, like, or whatever. Like, they're all condemning him to hell pretty much, because he, you know, like, listened to his heart and he didn't obey. And I think that advice stands, but I'm just like, no, this is one story, and I could see that's good enough way to handle it. In the reality that you were that grandmother, or, you know, that BFF, and this was going on, and you want to be involved in that, I don't think that the Lord would fault you for that. I don't see that. That's not the Jesus that I know. That's not the kind of stuff that Jesus is not suggesting that you be excluding yourself from things. Like, that's not what Jesus is talking about in my mind. Jesus is not going around saying refrain from this and make sure that you don't do this or that. You know, he's not like that. That's not the way. He's more like, do this, and do it more wholeheartedly than ever before. Do something. Even to the point of like, doesn't matter what you do, just do it more wholeheartedly than ever before. So, not, basically the opposite. And again, I'm drifting, so it's time to conclude that. But last week it was like the Alister Beg thing. I'm just like, man, you people, like, you all just want to talk about that same story. Like literally when you could be creating something, you could be writing a song, you could be doing something creative. And no, it's like you want to sensationalize all this controversy. Well, I was going to conclude it with something, I think, along the lines of saying that you will see how that actually is quite poignant, and I think you will experience, that's what I was trying to say, was that you will experience how valid that advice is. And it's like, can you really not see it? I thought that maybe that was not perceptible for a few minutes, but I think it's more like an hour or two. It's not, anything within an hour or two is not being re-fed or whatever. Now I'm totally drifting, so I don't even know I was talking anymore. I'm so zoned out, so I gotta conclude this, and I think maybe I'll take up on there, but yeah, well, I'm definitely drifting, but my hour's up. And so last week was Alister Beg, and I was just saying, it's like, you need to make an excuse to go to the party, okay? Not because you need to be at a party to get drunk or intoxicated, that's a totally different story. Nothing like that. That's not it. You've been there, done that. That's what these guys don't understand. That they never been there, done that, okay? So they don't understand what the party scene is like. This guy, Scottish guy, I guarantee you, he's been around the world. So he gives this advice that's kind of like a rock star advice, in a way. But it's like, I don't think Jesus would blame him. Jesus wouldn't blame him any more than he blamed a rock star. So, who are you to blame him? All of a sudden, this preacher...